reflection for Philippians chapter 3. In this chapter, the Apostle Paul continues his letter by talking about what he himself should have confidence in. He starts off the chapter by basically explaining that in the world's eyes, he has done pretty well. He has been a faithful person to God and to his faith. He was Jewish and remained Jewish, and he had sought to serve God. It says he's circumcised on the 8th day. He's of the people of Israel, the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, a Pharisee, and righteous based on the law. And he also says, as for zeal, persecuting the church. The Apostle Paul was known initially to be someone opposed to Jesus and opposed to those who followed him. In fact, we read in the book of Acts the fact that the Apostle Paul at least is supportive of, he maybe even involved in, the stoning of Stephen. Stephen being known to be the first Christian martyr, the first person to die for his faith of following Jesus. So the Apostle Paul has this background which in many ways, by the religious leaders especially, would have been seen as pretty brilliant and heroic. But he says, whatever were gains to me, I consider now loss for the sake of Christ. Everything else does not matter to the Apostle Paul compared to knowing and loving and serving Jesus Christ. That's a real challenge to every single one of us as well. What does it mean to us to belong to Jesus? We are about to mark Easter, and we are aware hugely of the suffering that Jesus went through for people such as us, and then, of course, dying on the cross. And so the Apostle Paul is saying, for the sake of Christ, all of this stuff that's gone before, it's just not that important. What does that mean for us? I wonder, what does it mean that everything that is in our life that is not Jesus is actually less than him and should be less than him? But I want to focus primarily, briefly, on a later verse 13 to 14. One thing I do, he says, forgetting what is behind and straining to what is ahead, I press on towards the goal, to win the prize for which God has called me heavenwards in Christ Jesus. He is straining for what is ahead. We know that he is at this point in prison writing this letter, put in prison simply really because he's a follower of Jesus. And so he's not in the best of places, but he is striving onwards. He doesn't give up. He doesn't say, well, I'm in this really tough position, therefore, basically I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to give up on all this faith, and I need to just leave it and say to those who are accusing me, actually, no, I don't believe this anymore. But of course he doesn't do that. He says, I strain towards what is ahead. He is so eager to meet with Jesus in God's glory once again that he strains towards what is ahead. That event that on that road to Damascus was just a little glimpse he knew of what the promise of the future would be in God's glory. So he strains to what is ahead. It doesn't matter what's gone on before, and it doesn't matter what is to come, other than he will be reaching the goal to win the prize for which God has called him. That's a challenge for me, and that's a challenge for us. to strain towards what is ahead, all of this stuff that's going on around us at the moment, all of the struggles, the pains, the fears, all of it, we can leave behind, as it were, because we can strain towards our goal, which is the glory of God and the promise of us enjoying it with him in eternity through faith in Jesus. This doesn't mean that Paul stopped praying about the situations around him. It doesn't mean that he didn't care about people, or even that he didn't feel the pain that he was in those chains. But rather it's that his mind's focus, he's training his mind's focus to be on the goal ahead. He's training himself for it. He's pressing on towards the goal because he knows he needs his mind to continue on that straight track and not be tossed about by the winds of change and chance. And so let us open our hearts to God again today and ask him to do this for us, to help us to strain towards the goal, press on towards it, to win the prize for which he has called us. It's coming, and it will be glorious. But until then, let everything that we have and that we are point towards and indeed take us towards the goal of the glory of God. Bless you all.